D-Mace, Finn, Ginendonic, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service and presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. I hope all of you had a wonderful weekend. Mine sucked. But I hope everybody else had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And look, this is all
Adam. I have to say,
let's just
You
get
might
it
as well just rip the Band-Aid
let's
off.
just get it out in the open, okay?
Because
This will be
the longer,
therapeutic.
the longer it goes,
yes.
the worse it gets.
All right,
for
let's
you.
just get it out in the open. Some of you might be fans of the show The White Lotus on HBO, right?
I am. Don't spoil anything
I'm
because
not.
I
Yes,
haven't
please
watched the
don't.
last episode yet. I
No
have not.
spoilers. Season finale was last night. No spoilers. One of the families on the show, the Ratliff family, they're an interesting family.
That they are.
5 of them. The patriarch and the oldest son went to Duke. The mother and the daughter went to North Carolina. So the father, played by Jason Isaacs, is having an existential crisis. Again, no spoilers. Oh, come on.
What?
What? Just keep talking.
No, just
The
explain.
father is having an existential crisis, right? So there are plenty of these shots throughout the show of Jason Isaacs as Timothy Ratliff staring blankly into the distance, wearing a Duke shirt. And those memes were all over the place on Saturday. That was me on Saturday night as well. I don't think I was wearing a Duke shirt, though. But I did have that look in my eye, that glassy-eyed look. Yes. It was a rough one. But I'm wearing black by coincidence. I'm not in mourning.
Okay. Because I did have to check on you this morning because when the game ended and all through Sunday, we kind of let him
Yeah,
on the text
because
chain,
you can't.
We
you
kind of
can't-
gave
yeah,
him some space.
You can't come at him.
We gave him some space.
We wait 24 hours.
Yeah.
24-hour rule.
My last text was wow. That was it. That's all I
My
said. I
last
believe.
text was stunner.
Mine was clutch 3 of those.
Right. And then nothing from Adam. And I'm like, oh, Adam is not in a good place right now. Let's take it easy on him. Let's give him some time.
Oh boy.
I rallied. I'm doing okay.
Mhm.
And you know what? This, as much as I love college basketball, this is the one thing about this era of college basketball that I don't like. And it's the lack of a redemption story, right? Because of the one and done nature of college basketball. Team comes in, season ends, those players all leave, next group comes in. Think back to 2018. The University of Virginia becomes the first team in NCAA tournament history to be a 1 seed, to lose to a 16 seed. The University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Yes.
And what's funny about that is the coach of UMBC, Ryan Odom, is now the head coach of Virginia. It's funny how that works out. He was hired a few weeks ago, but nevertheless. So UVA makes unfortunate history. The core of that team, however, returns the following season, and UVA wins the national championship. You could not script it any better. But because of the nature of college basketball and college sports, really, but we'll keep it to college basketball, there will be no such redemption for Duke because all of the players who were in that game are not going to be there next year, right? Cooper Flagg is gone. Con Knipple is gone. Kamon Malawach is gone. Sion James, Tyrese Proctor. So it's going to be up to a completely new group of players to attempt to redeem the Blue Devils next season. And that's part of the downside, right? Like, I like that UVA, those players stayed,
Right.
and they had an opportunity to redeem themselves, and they did. But they're not going. But in this era of college basketball and sports in general, college sports in general, that doesn't exist really anymore.
That is the sad part.
Mhm.
And so that's, you take the good with the bad. You take the good with the bad.
But we should get an excellent national championship game tonight, Florida and Houston. And tell me if you guys think this is an accurate description of what happened in that second game. Let's use a boxing metaphor. In the Elite Eight, Houston versus Tennessee, the Cougars landed a haymaker straight to the Volunteers' jaw from the opening bell, and Tennessee was out on its feet for the rest of the game. This game felt more like body shots, right? Houston was peppering Duke with body shots throughout the game. Duke was able to power through, but as the game wore on, those body shots took an impact, and you could tell by the end of the game that Houston was wearing Duke down, and I think that contributed to what we saw on Saturday night.
It reminded me, using a sort of using a boxing reference. It reminded me of Foreman and Moore, who, if you've seen that heavyweight
R.I.P.
fight,
George Foreman.
yes,
we
R.I.P.
recently lost George
Foreman.
Foreman.
That fight was just a heavyweight battle back and forth. But slowly, as the rounds started to go, you started to see, I believe it was Michael Moore. You started to see Michael Moore, taking those body shots, and it started to wear him, even though he may have been ahead in the fight at that point. It was just George Foreman's relentlessness and his body shot after body shot and then headshot. And it got to that point where he ended up knocking him out. He just didn't have any more left. He had the lead. He couldn't hold on to the lead, and he just didn't have anything else left. That was Duke and Houston, where Houston kept it close enough to where they landed that one blow. Now, Duke was winning the fight. Duke, the only thing he had to do was survive. They hit him with that last blow, and they just could not recover from it. How are you up 6 points with 30-something seconds left, and you can't close the deal with the players that you have? You had an opportunity at the front end of a 1-and-1. He wasn't a great foul shooter, but if that's the case, well, why did you let the ball get in his hands? So you hit the front end of a 1-and-1. I don't think that was a foul, but man, oh man, you can't put yourself in a position like that.
The experience factor definitely played a part at the end. Houston, a battle-tested group. Duke, a younger team with experience around the core freshmen, but not an experienced team overall. And even at the coaching position, right? Kelvin Sampson's been a coach for a very long time. John Shire in his third season as Duke's coach. So I do think the experience factor, but you're right. And that's a question that myself and many other Duke fans are going to be asking themselves for a very long time. It's just, how did it happen?
I think I honestly thought it came down to one thing, and that was once they had some trouble getting the ball in bounds and Houston's pressure was creeping up on them, the whole energy changed, and it disrupted everything else that Duke was doing. And I was shocked at how much trouble they had the ball had trouble just getting the ball in. I was looking at some numbers. I thought, I don't know if I follow the reference of the heavyweight fight as much, because I thought most of the game Houston was fighting just to stay in the game. I thought Duke was so much better than Houston, and only because Houston was hitting some threes and some tough threes. LJ Cryer went 6 for 9 from 3, and a lot of those were not easy. Those, like at the end of the first half, that game could have been 20 in the deficit. But Cryer hit, I think, 3, or his teammates combined, they hit like 3 in a row to end the half to stay in it and be within.
It was 6 at halftime.
Right. And they had no business being within 6 at halftime.
But that goes to the
power of the 3-point shot.
Staying in the game.
They just hung around.
Exactly.
They hung around. And still, the deficit was they were down
14.
59-45 with 8:17 left. They're still down 64-57 with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left. So at that point, the win probability was 97.5% for Duke. If you just take care of the ball and make your free throws, you win the game. But that's why you play. But I was stunned at the lack of creativity and adjustments once it was hard to get in with just a straight, hey, let's somebody get open, throw it in there, get fouled, hit your free throws. They were starting to have trouble. John Shire called a timeout. The guys come over. He goes, "We got to get open. We got to get open." You could read his lips, but I didn't see them change their press break. That's what was weird to me. I was like, you don't have a second wrinkle, a play to try to spring somebody
And
for a
remember,
long pass.
Duke was bailed out by the Houston technical foul for reaching over the inbound line, too. They were bailed out by that.
They got a bonus point. That's the only point they scored down the stretch.
Yes.
They were outscored 11-1 to end the game, and that was the 1 point. So they completely botched one facet of the game, and they never recovered. After they lost the lead, I didn't feel good about the energy. And even though Cooper Flagg got a pretty good look, it just everything was disrupted. The whole energy of the team was disrupted, and you could tell in his shot, he just didn't flow it. You know, he kind of, what did you call it? Short-armed it a little bit, right? You could.
It was almost like he needed it to be a perfect shot, and once he got the contested hand in his face, it was almost like he was in between that perfect shot and it just fell short. But listen, it's not like he hasn't been in this situation before. He's been in this situation 3 other times, maybe even 4 other times during the season. And each time he's come up short. Now, I'm not going to say he's not a guy that can make the baskets in a clutch moments, because it's because of him that, a lot of it was because of his ability to play the game while Duke was so highly ranked and so feared in his tournament.
And keep in mind, early in the season, because they suffered 2 of their losses in November. They lost to Kentucky. They lost to Kentucky in Atlanta, and they lost to Kansas when Kansas was the number 1 team in the country. At that time, Cooper Flagg was 17 years old. He turned 18 in December. So
that's unbelievable.
And look, the reason you have a player like that on your team is when you need that bucket, you put the ball in his hands. The issue throughout the season was it was pretty clear who the ball was going to. And I felt there was a lack of creativity on those plays when Duke needed a bucket, and you knew that Cooper Flagg was going to get
it was
the
like,
ball.
here, take the ball, everybody else clear out, instead of trying to.
He's not really an ISO guy. I feel like he's at his best when he's in the flow of the offense. Like, I don't think he's developed that clear out one-on-one games on the line. I don't think that's there yet, and I think it will get there.
It's interesting because when he took that shot, he was 5 for 14 from 2.
He wasn't having a good shot.
He wasn't having a great, and that's what I thought Houston might have even more success with. That's why one of my take it to the banks. I thought they would do a good job on him. He had 27 points, so let's not act like Flagg didn't do anything, right? He hit his threes, but they didn't run a special play, right?
No.
It was a clear out ISO, and Houston decided we're going to guard him one-on-one. We're not going to double, and because Flagg is a great passer. I think that's the idea for Duke is let it run through Flagg, because he'll get us a good shot. Either he'll create his own or he'll find the open man. But Houston said, we're not going to double. We're going to play him straight up, make him hit a tough 2. And that's about all you can ask for there.
Damien on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com, says Duke not playing in any close games came back to haunt them. Now,
I think I was going to ask you how many times they had to get the ball in bounds against good pressure defense like that. That was my question.
Not that many times that I can recall. Now, it's not Duke's fault that the ACC was historically weak this season.
And they won a bunch of games by 20 or more points,
and
right?
Sometimes within those games, they were down. I mean, think about the game in early March, first game of the ACC tournament against Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech is, they're a below average team, but Cooper Flagg gets hurt in the game. Malik Brown, one of their top reserves, gets hurt in that game. They're down double digits in that game after losing Flagg and Brown. And they came back to win. Now, if you look at just the final scores, Duke blew out a lot of opponents. But there were times within those games where they were down. They were down by 5 to Louisville in the ACC title game and had a great second half. So, I certainly do think that Houston and certainly Florida and Auburn, they were more battle tested because they were playing. We've talked about this how many times all season long. The SEC, you play a
Yeah.
top 5 opponent day after day after day after day. Duke didn't have to do that. And did that affect them in this game? It certainly could have. But
And in particular, the late game situations,
right.
where
There weren't
you
very
have to know all the details.
Right.
What's your press break? What's your, who do we want the ball to go into?
there weren't very
Where to
many
what-
of those. There
That's-
weren't very many.
And that's what I wondered. And I do think that as much as I'm sure they practice those things all the time in practice, but there's a difference in doing it in practice and then in the game. And I thought that was where they struggled. Like every inbounds pass was contested. You got to give Houston a lot of credit for that because they really turned up the heat. They're the best defense in the country. But also the other layers, like when the ball went in, it wasn't in a good spot. It was in the corner. Tough next pass, double teams. Where's the next guy? It really can create a panic. And keep this in mind. With the 30-second shot clock, how many teams press? Like back in the day, here's the old guy talking, right? 45-second shot clock. You had a lot more variety. You had 40 minutes of hell. Arkansas in the SEC. You had Rick Pitino's very unique pressing style for Kentucky. You played other teams that their system was to press full court. And if you wanted to speed up the game with the 45-second shot clock, that's what you had to do. 30-second shot clock, there's no real need to press. Maybe some token pressure here and there, some surprise pressure, but you probably don't get a lot of press break stuff for the most part. So I think I thought that was a huge factor in the game for Duke's meltdown there. So I was stunned. And Adam, I don't root for Duke, but I had Duke in the final in my bracket. I could taste it. I was like, I could win this thing. I can win it. I have Florida in the final. I have Duke in the final. This is perfect.
But look,
And it slipped away.
you know who I blame for this? I don't blame Cooper Flagg. I don't blame John Shire. I blame my wife, and I'll tell you why.
Oh no.
Oh wow.
Oh gosh, not on air. Not on air.
I'll tell you why. I know Bridget isn't listening right now. She's busy doing work that matters. Helping children at the Children's Hospital. Shout out Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. She picked Duke in her bracket, and I said, honey, don't do it.
Oh wow. So you blaming it on her now.
I said, honey, I said, if you want to fill out a
Scapegoat,
bracket,
Bridget.
she said she wanted to fill out a bracket. I said, okay, there's one rule. She goes, what? I said, you can't pick Duke to win. It's bad luck. And then she turned it in and she goes, guess what? I said, what? She goes, I picked Duke to win. And that was that.
But she had to pick with her heart.
Yeah, she had to go with her heart. No.
She's supporting you.
She doesn't believe in all that, superstitious stuff. If you say the team's gonna win, they're not gonna win.
If you don't sit in that right spot,
Yeah.
your team's not going to win.
I really
don't
hope
believe in
nobody clips this and sends it to my wife.
Hey, David, clip this.
Okay.
615-737-1025. Florida versus Houston in the national title game tonight. We will talk about that a little bit later. But coming up next, some interesting news out of Tennessee Titans land on Saturday afternoon. We will discuss that and what it means. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. Let me tell all of our friends out there that you can win an exclusive Jason Aldean experience. Text in the keyword Jason, Jason, to 615-737-1025 and receive a link to sign up for a chance to win all-inclusive tickets to the Eurostone Club at Bridgestone Arena, I should say, to see Jason Aldean, plus also a chance to win $1,000 cash. Want to win tickets to a Preds game? Then be listening to Robbie and Rex Road tomorrow morning for Preds Pick to Click. All you have to do is guess a Preds goal scorer, and if they put the puck in the back of the net, you win. Be listening tomorrow morning for the cue to call on Robbie and Rex Road. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. On Saturday afternoon, we got this tweet from our buddy Jim Wyatt. Quote, after yesterday's Colorado Pro Day, Titans brass met with Shedeur Sanders' camp, and the parties have agreed to cancel the upcoming private workout, which I believe was scheduled for Wednesday.
I believe so.
The Titans have seen 4 years of game film, scouted multiple games, and now attended a pro day they described as very impressive. And let me tell you what I thought when I read this tweet from Jim Wyatt. It reminded me of when somebody's breaking up with you. Now, note that I said it doesn't remind me of when I'm breaking up with somebody. It reminds me of when somebody's breaking up with you, because I don't have any experience breaking up with anybody. And Jim, I just think it's like, Shedeur, you're a great guy. You were very impressive at your pro day, but I'm just not that into you. That's the vibe that I got when I read that tweet. So the Titans cancel Shedeur Sanders' private workout. So it's Cam Ward, right? Cam Ward, Willie, Cam Ward, Derek, Cam Ward, David. Can we just move on? We've got,
I think, Travis Hunter.
We've got 2.5 weeks until the NFL draft. It's plain and simple, right?
But wait a minute.
Yes.
There's more.
Trevor Maddich said that you would do all this to make it look like you don't like Shedeur Sanders when you really do.
Dun, 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 dun.
Now-
Jared Stillman seems to be sort of thinking that. I know Jared's thing on his show is they want the picks, and he and I agree in that.
Mhm.
It's just, I think this is going to be a tough year to get the picks.
Yeah.
It just looks like it's moving in that direction. It's not going to be what we hoped in terms of teams lining up and calling you and say, we'll offer you this for the first pick. We'll offer you that for the first pick. Oh, keep coming. What else you got? I got this guy over here. He's on hold. What do you got? I just don't think there's that kind of competition.
So like the final scene in Draft Day from that terrible movie with Kevin
I haven't
Costner.
even watched that movie.
I want all my picks back.
I want all my picks back. And David Putney. Don't ask. What a terrible movie, but one that if it's on TV, you have to stop and watch. If you ever see Draft Day on your guide,
Should I watch it? It's like
I
just
think you
knowing
should.
that
It's
it's
worth
bad.
it.
Knowing that it's bad.
but that's what makes it good is that it's
So it
kind of
is so bad it's good. It's not so bad it'll be hard to watch.
It's also a strange cast. It's Kevin Costner.
I
Right.
think you would like it. I
and,
do.
Jennifer Garner's in it for some reason, and I think Dennis Leary is in
Mhm.
it playing the coach. They're the Cleveland Browns
Yeah.
in this movie. And by the way, I believe the agent played the agent who represents the one of the top picks in the draft is played by Diddy. So maybe it doesn't hold up as well as it used to.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
No, did it?
But no Diddy.
No.
But and I don't know if Mike Borgonzi, Derek, is some sort
Mhm.
of evil genius, right? Some sort of mad scientist, and he's orchestrating this whole thing to make it seem like it's definitely Cam Ward, but it's all a ruse to get somebody to trade up to number one. I won't throw that out completely, but it seems incredibly far-fetched
Mhm.
that the Titans are orchestrating this master plan.
It just doesn't seem like there's enough momentum even after the Shedeur Sanders pro day
Mhm.
where you wondered if the narrative would change and you'd start to hear momentum about him. And Deion Sanders proclaiming these are the two most sure bets in the draft. They should go 1 and 2, Hunter and Sanders. It doesn't look like the league is buying that. At least the writers that really cover this stuff, the draft evaluators that you respect, it just doesn't look like the evaluation is there. So it becomes a dilemma for those at the very top of the draft, in particular the Titans.
Yeah, as far as the Titans moving off that number one pick, I think it's going to be hard. Not because they don't want to, is because we've discussed this before. Because they are portraying this draft as being a not so good draft overall, or let's just say the quarterback position isn't rich. in top tier talent. Because ultimately that's what makes drafts. And I talked about that. When you have a last year's crop of quarterbacks, that made that draft. Absolutely 100% it made the draft. This year, you don't have that huge crop of quarterbacks. So, you look at the other guys and it seems like everything just drops off. So I think, one, they probably don't need a quarterback. And then two, if they do, there's still Shedeur Sanders possibly out there or some other quarterback they can draft in the second round. So I look at this for the Titans as just they've seen exactly what they've needed to see, I think, out of Shedeur Sanders. Having, Cam Ward here because Shedeur was here. They interviewed him here. Cam was here. They interviewed him here. Did they cancel Cam Ward's, or is he still coming for a workout?
Cam Ward had his private workout.
Oh, yeah, it's private
He
workout
did.
here.
Mhm.
So they've done all that. It leans more toward if they are going to draft a quarterback, it's going to be Cam Ward. But they still did enough evaluation of Shedeur Sanders because, listen, they saw him at the Shrine game. They got the opportunity to talk with him at the Shrine game. Then they had an opportunity to talk with him at the Combine. And then they went to his pro day and they talked with him, all while being able to see him work out. I'm not saying he's right there with Cam Ward or has surpassed Cam Ward or whatnot. But if they do move out of that first pick, they still have to do their evaluation, which they believe they've done, because there's still a potential of them drafting Shedeur Sanders, but not with the number 1 pick.
That's an interesting point you bring up, which I do want to get to in a little bit. By the way, the betting favorite right now to draft Shedeur Sanders is the Saints. I believe the Saints have the 9th pick in the NFL draft. The betting favorite right now to draft Shedeur Sanders is New Orleans, which would mean Sanders would be drafted with the 9th pick. Adam from Portland is on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Adam, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, Adam, is there any chance that they told him, hey, we want to draft you, but not at 1. We would rather draft you a few picks later and get you a lot of help? Because that would make sense. If this was just like a sloppy way of handling it, if it's the truth, if it's like, oh, we just love Cam, you're going to bring Cam into a situation where he has no help. So is Cam that much better than Deion's kid to where you could be like, okay, you could do it by yourself, as opposed to this guy who everybody's saying, I could have went either way. I think everybody's leaning towards Ward now, but still, if it's that close, dude, wouldn't you rather move back, even if it's not the return you want, and still get a lot of help for the young quarterback, man? I don't know. That's the only thing that makes sense, is that this is some type of posturing. Because if it's not, God, I don't have any faith in these dudes that are making this pick, man. I feel like they're not handling it the right way at all.
Thanks for the call, Adam. And we will react to what Adam had to say on the other side. 615-737-1025. I also want to respond to something that Derek said, because I read something to that effect, and I want to share it with the class. 615-737-1025. 1025 The Game and Green River Whiskey, easy for me to say, have teamed up to give away tickets to see Lainey Wilson at Bridgestone Arena in the all-inclusive Eurostone Club on Thursday, October 2nd. Tune into Chase and Big Joe tomorrow during the 9 a.m. hour for the keyword to text in for your chance to win tickets. Green River Whiskey. Sit back, relax, and bourbon. Green River Distilling Company, Owensboro, Kentucky. Alcohol volume varies by product. Please drink responsibly.
Well, the Tennessee Titans desperately need a quarterback. They do like Cam Ward a lot, not only from his upside perspective on the field, his arm strength, his movability, his durability. They believe that off the field, he is a fierce competitor. They feel like he's a really good person. In their interviews with him and their private workouts with him, their exchanges with him have been really good. So everything is positive. That said, I do not sense that the Titans have made a firm determination yet. They know players like pass rusher Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter out of Colorado are those possibly generational type players. That term generational you throw around. So they've been looking around, but they did cancel their private workout with Shedeur Sanders, which tells a lot about how they feel from a quarterback perspective and how the rest of the league feels. That it's Cam Ward as QB1, then a pretty big gap, then the rest of the field.
That was Jeremy Fowler from ESPN talking about the Titans and Cam Ward. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. So, Derek, you were making the point about Shedeur Sanders, and the Titans canceled their private workout with Shedeur Sanders, which was scheduled for later this week. Jim Wyatt wrote on Twitter, or X, after yesterday's Colorado Pro Day, Titans brass met with Shedeur Sanders camp, and the parties have agreed to cancel the upcoming private workout. The Titans have seen 4 years of game film, scouted multiple games, and now attended a pro day they described as very impressive. And as you were talking, Derek, it reminded me of something that I read from Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, and I want to hear what the two of you think about this. Florio writes, quote, regardless of the spin that the team will put on the move, the decision sends a message that the Titans won't be picking Sanders. And that's where the 3D chess of draft strategy becomes potentially relevant. If the Titans trade out of the first overall pick with a team that wants to spring up and pick Ward, the Titans would still need a quarterback. And so, as they willingly take a later place in line, they'd have a blinking red light regarding the possibility of picking Sanders, which would make them a prime candidate to be leapfrogged by another team that thinks their plan B would be Shedeur.
That's why they can only move down to I think the 3 or the 4 spot. That's as far as I think they can move, because if they listen, you have essentially 3 more weeks before the NFL draft, right around there.
2.5.
2.5.
Thankfully.
And having him in this week for a workout does what? Really? We're so close to the end. Why do I need to bring him in for a workout? Shedeur Sanders. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't draft him, and it doesn't mean that they will draft him. Because just think, if Jacksonville said we didn't want to have that very last, and listen, I'm not putting him in the same class or either one of these two quarterbacks in the same class as Trevor Lawrence. But what I'm saying is that if they knew they were going to draft this guy, or they knew they had the potential of drafting this guy, or they knew if they plan B, if we move out of this pick and we move down, he's going to be the guy that we get. If they know that, if Jacksonville knew that they were going to get Trevor Lawrence, why did they? If they chose not to have that meeting, would we think, oh, they have no interest in Trevor Lawrence? No, we wouldn't. Because why? Because we would have said this. Everybody would have said this. They've seen everything that they needed to see. And they would make the excuse, well, why do they need that last meeting? Why? They've seen everything. They know they're going to draft him first of all. I am not saying that the Titans will draft Shedeur Sanders first overall. But what I'm saying is this. If they get what they want, you got to have a contingency plan. If you get what you want at the number 1 spot, somebody trade that with you, and you move, because you know you can't move but so far if you're still trying to get a quarterback. You move, say, to the 4th slot or the 3rd slot, whichever the slot the Giants have. You move from there, and they jump up. No one's in between that is going to try to move up, because Cleveland's not going to move. Cleveland's not going to move anywhere, and New England's not going to move anywhere. So I can only move down really probably to the Giants pick. So I moved down. I still need my plan B. So my plan B would be Shedeur Sanders. I don't need to see any more of him. I don't. I've seen everything that I need to see. He is our plan B. If we move out of this pick and we move down to where the Giants swap places with the Giants, he's going to be our guy, because we know the Giants want Cam Ward.
I think I think of it as you don't want to put yourself in a position that you have to get a certain guy if it's your game plan. You have to be prepared to walk off the car lot without a car and just say we're tabling the quarterback question for 2025, and we'll go back hard into it 2026 and hope that there are better options. We believe there will be better options than having to pick a quarterback that we don't really want, or the quarterback we hoped would be there isn't there at the slot we think he is valuable there. So I still think it comes down to, do you believe that Cam Ward or Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter is worthy of the first pick? And you have to weigh that with, even if the answer is, well, I don't know, to, is anybody really offering you significant stuff for the first pick? And I think that's the decision. It does really, it does seem like people are pretty sure that Shedeur Sanders is not worth the first pick. Fair?
Fair. As I said, the betting markets right now have the Saints as the favorite to draft Shedeur Sanders, and they are picking, I want to say, 9th. So the betting markets are expecting Shedeur Sanders to land at the bottom of the top 10. What is it? Is it Occam's razor that the simplest, the most obvious solution is? I'm trying to think of the definition here.
The simplest solution
Is the
most
solution
obvious. It's the most obvious solution, sort of.
Yes, and that's what I think. And I probably should have prepared a definition of Occam's razor. But my point is,
if I could spell Occam quickly, I would look it up fast.
Yeah.
OCCAM''S. My point is, sometimes the right answer is the simplest answer, which is they like Cam Ward. Maybe they love Cam Ward. It's going to be Cam Ward. Mike Florio wrote in this same article at Pro Football Talk, it could be as simple as the Titans knowing they want Ward, or it might have happened because Sanders or someone close to him, like his father Dion, asking the Titans whether there's any chance the Titans would take Shedeur over Ward, and the Titans failing to persuade Sanders or someone close to him, like his father Dion.
So it is the simplest explanation is usually the most likely to be correct.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. That's what I was trying to say. So it could
Thanks
be
for
as
spelling.
simple. It could be. Thank you.
Thank you,
It could
Mr.
be
Occam.
as simple as the Titans knowing they want Cam Ward. And remember, last week, the report before our show on Friday was that Chad Brinker, who wasn't supposed to be going to the pro day, went to the pro day. Perhaps he went so that he could be there to tell Shedeur Sanders, thank you, but no thank you. We do not plan on drafting you. Let's not waste everybody's time.
But going back to, who was it that I forget who wrote the piece that you were talking about? If you trade down and you're hoping to get Sanders,
This was Florio too, as well.
right. So the Florio theory of the day, he won't be the only guy that comes up with this. Well, they'll trade down and they'll draft Shedeur. You have to understand that you lose a little bit of control depending on how far you drop down.
That
so you
was
may
Florio.
not get him, and that's okay. That's okay.
That was Florio's point, is that if the Titans are trading down to put themselves in position to draft Shedeur Sanders, bypassing Cam Ward, a team that knows, hey, if we do not leapfrog the Titans, we aren't getting Shedeur Sanders. He called it a blinking red light. Like, we're taking Shedeur.
But if that allows you to get more assets, that if that's your end game, which I think is a good strategy, they need picks. They need as many picks as they can get. That's all right, even if you don't end up with a quarterback.
So what he's saying is the Titans, I'm trying to understand this. He's saying the Titans would essentially move down so they can indicate to everybody that they're taking Shedeur Sanders, so then somebody can leapfrog them and take Shedeur Sanders.
Let me read the graph again. He said, this is Mike Florio, quote, if the Titans trade out of the first overall pick with a team that wants to spring up and pick Ward, the Titans would still need a quarterback, theoretically. And so as they willingly take a later place in line, they'd have a blinking red light regarding the possibility of picking Sanders, which would make them a prime candidate to be leapfrogged by another team. So I think Florio's point is, let's say the Titans move down to 3. And there's a team that really wants Shedeur Sanders, and they know that Shador Sanders is not getting past 3.
Mhm.
That would allow another team to move up to 2 and take Shador Sanders before the Titans.
But
But
I
why
could
would the
s-
Titans even like? If I know moving out of this for that's and this is not you. This is not Tori. You're explaining it, but I don't. I don't buy that whole theory because if they like Shador Sanders but don't want to draft him at number 1, if I move, I am only going to move down as far as 3 because I know still at 3 I can get him because Cleveland would then take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, so I can still get Shador, but I'm gaining some assets in the process, but I'm moving down and still being able to get my second guy. So I don't that what he's saying, unless I'm really understanding it, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it does. And why not spin it this way? If you're not really sold on Ward or Sanders, and you could potentially move down to 3
Mhm.
and then have somebody jump up who wants the second quarterback, let's say it's Sanders, and you could get more picks to move down further, then you could do that too.
But you're banking on another team giving more than because Cleveland would then be wanting essentially almost a first pick in the draft type of move because they know you want Shedeur Sanders. So not New England. So New Orleans or the Giants, well, the Giants have already moved, but New Orleans, if you want him, you're going to have to give me probably close to what the Titans got or equal. And I'm not sure they're going to be that stupid. New Orleans, maybe they are. You know that team better than a lot of us do. But I just don't think that's banking on the theory that somebody's stupid enough to overvalue Shedeur Sanders and give up that because you would have to give up a lot to move out of that second spot if you're Cleveland.
615-737-1025. So with the news that the Tennessee Titans have canceled their private workout with Shedeur Sanders, does that just mean prepare for Cam Ward to be picked number 1 overall in 2.5 weeks? Or do you think there is something more at play here? Is Mike Borgonzi a mad scientist? 615-737-1025. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is from 12 Stones Crossing Golf Club in Goodlettsville. They offer 18 championship holes spanning over 6,800 yards with the meandering Madison Creek at its centerpiece. Get half off a $50 gift card now while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. D. Mace Finnegan and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, talking about the Titans' decision to cancel their private workout scheduled for this week with Shedeur Sanders. We'll take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Larry is on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Larry, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, thank you.
Going good.
Listen, I think Willie laid out my dreams and hopes for this draft, and that's the trade back twice. You know, you have the Giants that come up, and they give you that third pick. They give you a second, a third this year, maybe a second next year. Then you have a team like the Saints. They're wanting Shedeur Sanders or whatever to move up, and they give you their first, a second, a first and 26, and a third. So right there, you have gained 6 new draft picks in the top, 100 picks in the next two years. So that's what I'm thinking. I hope happens, and maybe you can take one of those other picks and maybe trade it for a backup quarterback that's better than anything you have on your roster right now.
Thanks for the call, Larry.
I would sign up for that if you felt good about it. If your evaluators are saying none of these players are worthy of a pick that high and we're better off getting the extra picks, then it may not be the sexiest thing to do in the moment. But if it is in your mind, the fastest way to build a championship caliber roster, a roster that gives you a chance to compete with the Chiefs, with the Bills. I mean, this is what you have to be thinking.
Mm-hmm.
How close am I to having a roster that can beat a team like that in a playoff game? You don't want to set your sights on, well, maybe as quick as we could get to 10-7. Mm-hmm. Floyd Reese used to say that all the time. Because I really have no interest in trying to build a roster that could go 8-8 or 9-7. I'd rather be bad in the process of building a roster that can win big. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the right approach. And it's hard because you play in a league that parity is the norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, at this spot, because I do agree with this. If you don't believe he's the guy and you're willing to move out of that spot, what will it take then for you to move out of that spot? And okay, if you do move out of that spot, how are you setting yourself up? Because I think you're okay in the sense of you're trying to get those so many picks in the first 100. You're trying to get that sort of line checked off. I didn't say box. I said line scratched off.
I'll allow it.
Okay, thank you.
You're on the line, but yeah.
Teetering it.
Don't cross that line.
I'm an habitual line crosser. No. But like I said last week, I personally believe that they like him and they will draft him unless someone gives them something that they just can't refuse. Because I do believe that they feel either road they travel, they're going to be okay. They're still setting their franchise up for success, whether it be trading out of it, accumulating the picks, or staying put, regardless of what anybody else say. It only matters what they think over there at Metro Center.
So The Athletic published its latest big board. This was on Friday. And the big board combines rankings from a wide range of NFL draft experts to identify how the top prospects are viewed relative to the rest of their class. So on April 4th, the number one player on the consensus board was Abdul Carter. And we talked about Abdul Carter last week. Mina Kimes had Field Yates on her podcast, and they did a mock draft where Mina Kimes gave Field Yates 2 choices. He had to pick one or the other. And the Titans' choice was Cam Ward or Abdul Carter. And again, as we said last week, Abdul Carter, I think we can all agree, and the big board here on The Athletic says so, and I think if you looked at other big boards, it would say the same thing. Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are considered the top 2 prospects in this draft. The wrench in the Abdul Carter plans is his recent injuries, the arm/shoulder injury he suffered in the college football playoff, and the stress reaction that was discovered in his foot at the NFL Combine. I think if Abdul Carter was healthy, I really think this would be a harder choice. But I'm looking at this big board. Cam Ward is 12th on this big board. And Shedeur Sanders is, I'm having to scroll down all the way to 32. So if you are looking at a player's place on the big board saying, is it worth drafting this player? Cam Ward, according to the Athletics big board, is the 12th best prospect. Now, is it worth drafting the 12th best prospect with the first overall pick?
That's the dilemma.
That's the dilemma.
Here's,
And perhaps I can go back and look at big boards
Mhm.
in previous drafts and see where the number 1 pick landed. Maybe that's a project I'll do for later this week.
Here's if Abdul Carter was fully healthy, and let's just say that the Titans still, they've done the same exact thing with Cam Ward. They've done the same exact thing, so nothing's changed. But Abdul Carter is fully healthy. I am going to go out on a limb to say this: they would not have drafted Abdul Carter with the number 1 pick. No way, no how. If indeed they still felt though, if I believe they feel they're in a good place with Cam Ward, like if you can't move out of it, that's our guy. If I feel that way with Abdul Carter being healthy, I still think they take Cam Ward for this reason. Who's the best defensive lineman in the game right now?
Myles Garrett.
Where has Cleveland been?
Clevelanding.
Exactly. Okay. Before
Made the
that,
playoffs, not this past year, but the year before, they did make the playoffs.
Who was
they have won?
Yeah, they've been in the
playoff
playoffs.
game.
Yeah,
They've been in the playoffs
Uh-huh.
multiple times since they've had Garrett. In
Okay.
fairness, which is better than
Yeah.
pre-Garrett,
you're right. You're absolutely right. And I put Garrett in that because he was the number 1 pick.
and they have fouled up the quarterback situation about as bad as you can.
Exactly. Even Aaron Donald, as great as he was, he would probably go down considered as a top 2 interior lineman behind Reggie White, possibly. Even with him, when did they win the Super Bowl? Oh, you ain't got to answer that. Then when they got Matthew Stafford, when they got a quarterback that can get it done. Even Jadeveon Clowney, he was drafted what? Number 1 overall. He hadn't won any. The closest thing he came to the Super Bowl was going to Baltimore.
Right.
They
And he never lived up
Exactly.
to what they thought he was.
People are not drafting guys that hot, guys at that position, number 1 overall, when they need a quarterback. They're just not doing it. If they love, unless they're just a quarterback in the draft, period. Like 2 years ago, what was it? Malik Willis draft, where really wasn't nobody in the draft.
Right.
Then okay, I take you. But if there's a Cam Ward in the draft, you're not taking Abdul Carter number 1 overall because he's not going to win a championship for you. And until you find that guy, and you're going to have to trade for him more than likely because you're going to be good enough to make the playoffs.
I think what, Adam, you've thrown out there about the big board. Let's say the big board is close to true, whether it's Cam Ward at 12 or 9 or 15, somewhere in that mix. I think the Titans probably see it that way, and probably most of the league sees it that way. And therefore, the Titans would love to trade down and draft Cam Ward in the area where he's really evaluated, but so would the whole rest of the league. And that's why they're probably not getting a lot of phone calls with really juicy offers for that pick.
Here are the players who are ahead of Cam Ward on the Athletics' latest big board. Abdul Carter is 1. Travis Hunter is 2. Ashton Genty is 3. Mason Graham, the DT from Michigan, is 4. Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, is 5. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Armand Membo, offensive tackle out of Missouri, is 6. Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan, is 7. Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia, is 8. Ted McMillan, the receiver out of Arizona, is 9. Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, is 10. Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU, is 11. Those are the players ahead of Cam Ward on the
And
big board.
any of those guys worthy of the number 1 pick, you believe? At this present time.
That's where it depends on what you think of Carter or the injury.
Hunter,
So-
But I
Or
don't think.
Hunter.
But I
Or
don't think
Hunter.
people are saying, "Oh, he's he's the number one pick," or "He's the number one pick." It's still some like, well, yeah, because there's not a quarterback in the draft. But okay, you take Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, put them in last year's draft. Are they still being drafted number one? No. Year before that, are they being drafted? No. Only this year because that quarterback's not there. We're questioning whether the quarterback needs to be, whether he's worthy of a number one pick or not. So does that automatically make, because we're questioning that, some people, not all people, because that is being questioned, does that now make Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter like unquestioned number one picks in any other draft? No, especially not the last two drafts. So what makes them more worthy of a number one pick than Cam Ward? That's what I'm trying to find out. And I'm not saying that what you give me is wrong. I'm just saying what makes Cam Ward not worthy of the number one pick, but makes those other guys worthy of the number one pick. Because in any other draft, they wouldn't be number one picks. None of them. That's all I'm trying to find out. We're saying like, oh, Cam's number one, but Myles Garrett, we got a Myles Garrett type of player. We don't have a Myles Garrett type of player. As good as Abdul Carter seemed to be, he's not a Myles Garrett type of player.
And that's the question that Titans fans have been asking throughout this entire process. If Cam Ward, and by the way, in the previous edition of the Athletics Big Board, Cam Ward was 13. So he moved up one spot. Now, I don't know how often they refresh it, but he moved up one spot from 13 to 12 in the latest edition. And that's the question. And as Coy in Clarksville says, I'll just read what Coy in Clarksville says because he is speaking for what the Titans fans are saying that I was about to say. Titans are reaching way too much for a quarterback at number one. That is the issue that a lot of Titans fans have with the idea of Cam Ward.
But I would think you'd be
find
reaching
a single one that has Ward as the best player in this draft.
I have not seen
one. And there's a lot of them, as we know.
Right.
But would it be? What only matters, and I got this text sent to me early this morning by a good friend of mine, but he was talking more so in the spiritual realm. It's not about what everybody else thinks, and thank you, Morris. It's not about what everybody else thinks about you. It's what that one person thinks about you. He was relating that to my relationship with God and Jesus Christ. But I'm relating it to, it doesn't matter what we think about him. Doesn't matter what those other 31 teams think about him. If they have him as their guy, draft him.
Yeah. If you feel like he will do the job
exactly
for you,
draft him.
Then you make that decision, especially at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they would probably, and this is, I think Tim Hasselbeck sort of laid this groundwork, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago, when he was doing his evaluation. He was saying, look, if I evaluate Cam Ward as a solid, high floor, first round pick, maybe not, elite type of tools that would be worthy of a first pick. But if you have a chance to get a guy with a high floor who's got a chance to be a really good quarterback for 10 years, then despite trying to live up to the hype of being the first overall pick, if you could take that aside, that's still a successful pick. But I would say that for fans and some people, you would never escape chasing that you're the first pick. Like, I think Kyler Murray has fallen short of the hope that Arizona fans would have had for him. As
but Arizona really never
pick.
Put a team around him at all.
Yeah, but I would say that he's a flashy player and a good NFL quarterback, and he's going to keep being a starter in the league for the foreseeable future, right? So that's not a miss. That's not a miss at all.
But
so
it goes back to what we've
the
talked about
expectation level of a first overall pick, which is unfair.
Correct.
And so that's where you're like, forget about all the other noise and all that stuff. Just, can you do the job for me? Can we win if I pick you at this spot? That's really what it comes down to.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But I understand Titans fans and fans around, the league that don't have what would be perceived as a elite quarterback. Because now it went from, We don't want a franchise quarterback. We want an elite quarterback. I thought we were looking for a franchise quarterback because not all franchise quarterbacks turns into elite quarterbacks. So which one do we want here? Do we want a franchise quarterback? Because that's what we were trying to look for, and we ain't found it. And that's what we need, a franchise quarterback. Okay, not all Jalen Hurts is not he's not an elite quarterback, but he's a franchise quarterback. And how many Super Bowls? Oh, he just won a Super Bowl. You're right, Derek. You're absolutely right. Okay. All right. There are elite quarterbacks. There's only one elite quarterback, well, two in the last few years that have won a Super Bowl. One, well, two. Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. That's it. Okay. The other quarterbacks that have won have been good franchise quarterbacks. What's wrong? And this is what is the frustrating part about it. Because the goalpost is always moved. And Titans fans, you have every right to move the goalpost, because the team here hasn't given you much. And you're just trying, I want the best. And I get it. When you look around and you see Houston getting their elite franchise quarterback, you see, other teams within your division that are starting to get this AFC in general are starting to get their guys. And you want an elite quarterback because you think elite quarterbacks come with every draft. But it doesn't. Let's get a franchise quarterback first. And if the Titans believe that he is a franchise quarterback, because the guys that are drafted number one overall, a lot of them started out as elite quarterbacks. He's going to be an elite quarterback. But then, depending on how they play, and a lot of them play good, they become, they're our franchise quarterback. No longer is it elite quarterback because they know that's not what they are. They're franchise quarterbacks. That's what we've been looking for.
And you're redefining what some people would call some people have them one and the same. You're saying
they're different.
A franchise quarterback that wins for a franchise.
Exactly.
He may not be the most talented.
He may not always be an elite.
Skills, but if he wins, that's good.
Phil Simms was not an elite quarterback. But Willie, how many Super Bowls did he win? Two. Well, he played in one.
Yeah, he was the MVP of one. He was on another one. Exactly. He was a starter for most of the year.
Exactly. He ended up getting hurt and coming in.
But that's a great point. Phil Simms was a winning starter for a long, long time.
Exactly. So I know y'all want Patrick Mahomes. I know y'all want Jackson. I know you want Allen. I put Allen in that spot now because, he earned it. I know you want an Allen.
But if that's your expectation, you're going to be chasing for a long, long time.
Why not get Justin Herbert? Because Herbert's not elite. He's not. Herbert is a franchise quarterback. Herbert hasn't shown me anything elite. And we can have that argument. But he's a the LA Chargers ain't giving him up. Why? Because he's their franchise quarterback. They can win with him.
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on Cam Ward, the Titans, the NFL draft, you name it. Call us, text us, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, there was an interesting report over the weekend about the Titans' plans with the number one pick as it relates to possible trade partners. We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025. It's time for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament. Cromwell Media, along with partners Fox 17, Outfront Media, and Social Indoor, are proud to announce we will be back at Hermitage Golf Course on Thursday, May 29th to make a difference while having a great time. You can join us and a few guest media members, athletes, and musicians as we raise money for Folds of Honor. Donations will go to provide life-changing scholarships to families of America's fallen or disabled military and first responders. Sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. The Atlanta Braves country road trip is coming to town and teaming up with the Predators and 102.5 The Game. Join us at the BetMGM Sports Lounge in Bridgestone Arena on Wednesday, April 16th. That's 1 week from Wednesday for a Braves watch party as they take on the Tampa Bay Rays at noon. There will be free giveaways like hats and t-shirts. Plus, you could win autographed baseballs and free Braves tickets to a game of your choice. Also, the first 15 people in the door will win a pair of Preds tickets to that night's game, which is the season finale. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Let's get to your reaction. 615-737-1025. Scott in Hendersonville says comparing prospects at different positions is like comparing the ratings of a pickup truck and a refrigerator. It doesn't matter how highly rated the refrigerator is if I'm in dire need of a truck. Brian says if the Titans don't want Ward at number one, what makes people think others will give up the world for him? I just don't see a trade partner. So speaking of trade partner, Jeff Howe of The Athletic, one of their national reporters, had a story about Colorado's pro day. And within that story, he writes this, quote, of course, the Titans could still move the top pick, but that doesn't sound likely at the moment, especially after they declined to get involved with top free agents Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers, according to league sources. The Browns and Giants have inquired about the Titans' interest in trading down, according to league sources, but the Titans haven't even determined the level of compensation they'd require to consider such a move. Judging by the Browns and Giants' actions, as well as what they've said about refusing to force a QB draft pick in the first round, it's fair to deduce their interest in moving up has been centered around Ward. So that's the key sentence in this report from Jeff Howe of The Athletic. The Titans haven't even determined, according to Jeff Howe, the level of compensation they'd require to consider such a move.
Why would I? I wouldn't set a market right now.
Yeah.
I would wait till the draft starts.
Right. I think that's the
everything
key.
get going. And
You
then
have time.
now, exactly.
The Lou Lamoriello. You have time.
Yeah.
Take the time. Because
Exactly.
the value is only the actual,
Mhm.
the call. You don't have to don't negotiate against yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's essentially why now? There's no need for me to negotiate anything or give any parameters to a negotiation right now. I will wait maybe a day before, a couple of days before, or the actual day of the draft. That's when it's going to be, I believe, at its highest, because now the rubber is about to meet the road. And either you're gonna use the bathroom or get off the potty. One of the two. You got to do one of the two. Okay. You ain't gonna just sit here. So teams are willing to make
I've
those
heard that
drastic
saying. It was a
picks.
slightly different saying.
Yeah, I know it was. Yeah.
I've heard people use a version of that saying, a rendition.
Hey, listen.
It seems to me in my memory a little bit different than how you said it.
How did you say it, Derek?
Use the bathroom or get off
Yeah,
the pot.
use the bathroom and get off the pot. One or two. Or
Potty.
hey, listen. Or
Potty.
if
I
you go,
I heard potty.
I heard potty.
if you're gonna pour either you're gonna pour the milk on Frosted Flakes and eat it or not. One of the two. Don't play. Give me the bowl.
Because
or not.
nobody
Yeah.
really wants dry for
Exactly. You don't want dry Frosted Flakes. Either you gonna use the milk
It
or let me
tastes really
use
good when you put the milk in there and the
Yeah.
milk gets all sugary.
I know.
Oh, that's good.
it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I
And I
slurp
pour a
that.
little.
I'm not afraid.
honey on it.
I'm just
Ooh,
saying this.
yeah,
now we're
If you
talking.
eat
Now we're
dry,
That's a smart.
if you eat dry cereal,
Yes.
you're a serial killer,
Literally and figuratively.
literally and figuratively. You're
Oh,
killing the
man.
cereal by not enjoying it with milk,
Yeah.
but you're
That was
also
a good one.
little
That could have been a
shortchanging.
dad joke. That
You're
could have been
also a
dad
little
joke.
off. I will.
You're
I will-
shortchanging yourself.
Yes, I used to like dry cereal. Then I realized the error of my ways.
Dry cereal is still good every
But
once
then
in a
again, I
while.
used to not like Chinese food, which was also
now you
kind of
love it.
strange. I do
Oh,
like good
oh,
Chinese
okay.
food. Who doesn't like Chinese food? Do you like
Oh, I
Chinese
love
food?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chris and Dixon says, I just want a quarterback that makes it to a second contract. And hey,
And what are those? What are those called together, everybody?
franchise quarterback.
There we go. Yes. Franchise quarterback.
Because
Hey,
you
listen,
probably won some games.
Exactly.
If you sign that quarterback to the next hunt, you've probably won some games.
listen, people, hear me out with this. All elite quarterbacks are franchise quarterbacks, but all franchise quarterbacks aren't elite. You got to know the difference between the two. So what do you want?
That's deep, Derek.
Yeah, that was really deep, man.
That's
Real
really deep.
So what do you
Someone should
want?
put that
Do you
on a
want a
t-shirt.
do you want a franchise quarterback? Let's start there first, because there's not many elite quarterbacks in today's game, especially not ones that were drafted first overall. Caleb Williams, he was considered elite. He's not elite right now. He's looking more like their franchise quarterback. Bryce Young, number 1 overall. He's not elite. Is he looking like their franchise quarterback? Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. Trevor Lawrence, he's not elite. He was the number 1 pick, but is he? I mean, he was deemed elite, but he's not elite now, right? He's their franchise quarterback. He got to a second contract. Typically, when you get to second contracts with quarterbacks, you're doing something good. So we just need a quarterback. There hasn't been a quarterback since Steve McNair that they drafted. Since Steve McNair, especially in the first round, let's just say in the first round, that has gotten to a second contract.
You
We're talking about guys that they drafted.
Tannehill they re-upped with,
Exactly,
right? But that
Tannehill
was a
wasn't
different
draft pick.
situation.
Exactly. There hasn't been a quarterback that they drafted in the first round, Mariota, Locker, Young, that has made it to a second contract. So they wasn't even franchise quarterbacks. Let's just try to get a franchise quarterback first.
So
I like the
think
way
that's
that
key.
Chris and Dixon is thinking. The Titans need to draft a quarterback they like enough to re-sign.
There we go.
Well, I think based on all the evaluations, if you believe anything, if you believe in these guys who do the evaluating, the consensus, you take them all into account, and you really don't have anyone saying Cam Ward is worthy of the first pick necessarily, then I think you need to lower the bar. And if your bar is, give me a quarterback who has a high floor, that has the potential to win you games and earn a second contract, if you're okay with that, and that's better than what you think of Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, guys that you might consider the best player in the draft, that's what you're weighing, because the quarterback is hard to find, as we know.
Well, they didn't think Bo Nix and Michael Penix was worthy of the picks they got drafted, and nobody screamed like, "Yes, Denver, good job! Oh my goodness, you
Right.
got your or
Because they were
Penix,
lower
yeah.
first round picks.
But
It's
what
a
I'm saying
different
is that-
deal when it's the first pick in the draft.
And I understand that part, but it's like, listen, if you deem him a franchise guy, whether you are a defensive end, corner, receiver, you got that number 1 pick. And if you need that position, say you already got a quarterback, but you deem that guy as a franchise guy and really no elite guys out there, then you draft him. If you believe that guy is a franchise guy at corner, then you draft him, because why? We predict he's going to be on our team through a second contract. That's the same as drafting a quarterback number 1. So, to the Texas point, we just want a franchise quarterback. We want a guy that can win some games with us. And I know people, well, that's not enough. Well, how many games have y'all won in the last 2 years?
Not enough.
Exactly. So you can't saying that's not enough. I'm including myself in this because I am a fan of the team. We ain't in a position to be demanding stuff. Get me a quarterback that's going to win. And if Cam's going to be that guy, let's draft him and let's move.
615-737-1025. Before we get to Teron Davenport at 1 o'clock, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, we'll talk about all of this with Teron. History was made yesterday, and I want to talk about where it ranks among the most impressive individual feats in professional sports. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game.
All right, let's talk League Company, proud sponsor of our Nashville Predator coverage here on 102.5 The Game. The next chapter will be tomorrow night. New York Islanders are in town, and Nashville will try to get off the schneid. Another Tough loss last night. Nashville outplayed Montreal, came up short. Have you heard that song before? Let's put that aside for now. Let's just talk about Lead Company and the great work that they've been doing since 1944 in our listening area. They do a fantastic job with the things that run your house. Let's be honest, you can't run your house unless your heating unit's working in the winter, your air conditioning unit is working in the summer. And those summer months are coming. They're coming very fast. Do you have your air conditioning unit running efficiently? Well, if you haven't, then call Lead Company, 615-567-1000. If you're not sure what the answer to that question is, and look, why not take the next step and have a year-round coverage plan, the home maintenance plan? You get annual checkups of all 4 of those systems, and you get discounts when repairs are needed. We bought a whole new system last summer from Lead Company. It was just that time. Our old system had run its course. It was time to invest in a new one, and they've helped us greatly with that. LeadCompany.com or 615-567-1000. Lead Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators.
So Carlson will make his way to the neutral ice, dropping it for Dylan Strome. He and Chikrin will team up and glide through center. Right side to Wilson. Centered up. Ovechkin has it. He scores! He scores! Alex Ovechkin scores 895. There's a new goal-scoring champion, and his name is Alexander Ovechkin. He has done it here on Long Island. His teammates love him. There is but one. Alexander the Great, the greatest to ever do it in National Hockey League history.
My friend John Walton, Capitals radio play-by-play announcer, calling Alex Ovechkin's historic goal yesterday on Long Island. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Alex Ovechkin.
Well done, by the way, Mr. Walton. You
Sir-
only get one shot.
Yep.
You only get one shot to call history.
You're right about that.
He nailed it.
Alex Ovechkin surpasses Wayne Gretzky as the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer. I love symmetry. Alex Ovechkin, 895 goals in 1,487 games. Wayne Gretzky, 894 goals in 1,487
That
games.
is amazing.
Mhm.
And it was a great scene. It happened on the road at UBS Arena, but they paused the game. Wayne Gretzky said some words. Alex Ovechkin said some words. A great scene. And it got me thinking about where this particular achievement ranks among the most impressive individual feats in professional sports. And Alex Ovechkin, what's been most impressive about Ovechkin, who's been in the NHL for 20 years, is his durability. He rarely misses games. He has, he's been injured here or there. He broke his leg earlier this season and missed, I believe, 15 or 16 games. He's been suspended a couple of times. But overall, I think he's averaged 75 games a season, thereabouts. And I do think it's worth asking. Gretzky's record held for 31 years. Is this record unbreakable? When you look at some of the other players in the NHL who could, there are two players who come to mind. Leon Draisaitl and Austin Matthews. Those are the first two players that come to mind to me among active players. Young players like Steven Stamkos is closer to Ovechkin than Austin Matthews and Leon Draisaitl, but Steven Stamkos is in the back nine of his career. He's not going to catch Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah, he can catch a lot of guys on the list,
Right.
which is going to be fun. But getting to over, you're going to have to now get over 900.
Yes.
Because Ovechkin isn't just going to retire.
No.
He's got at least one more year, that's his contract.
Wouldn't shock me if he got to 900 before the end of the regular season, the way he's been playing. But I'm just curious for your opinions, guys. When you think about the greatest individual records in sports, whether it's the home run record, the NBA scoring record, where do you think this ranks? Alex Ovechkin overtaking Wayne Gretzky among individual achievements. I'm not including championships in this because that's a different category, I feel like. Just in terms of individual performance, home runs, goals, points. Where do you think this ranks, Willie?
It's such a unique stat. Goals, right? It's different than points. Like that's why I think it's like home runs and goals might be unique because they're so memorable in the moment. You don't know when they're going to happen, and then they happen, and it's exciting. So there's something about that stat, maybe even more than touchdowns in football. Although that would be probably in the category, but we don't like. I don't know if we go around thinking, what's the first record that you can think of in football? Most touchdowns. It's really not that, right? Football is much more about, okay, who's got the most yards, touchdown passes. I don't know if it's just like who scores the touchdown is the most important thing because it could be a lot of 1-yard touchdown runs and stuff like that. So I would put it pretty high up there. The prestige of it is pretty cool. And you have to set aside, of course, hockey is not as popular as football or some of these other sports, probably, but it's a unique thing, scoring a goal. And I don't. I would say that most hockey people polled do think that it is possibly breakable, even though I think, famously, Alex Ovechkin, and we talked to Elliot Friedman about this. I give ourselves credit, right? I think earlier in the year we asked Elliot about it. He brought up the story of when he interviewed Ovechkin in 2016, and Ovechkin famously said, "I don't think I can break the record. I would have to have 6 years of scoring 50 goals a year, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to skate that well for that long." Obviously, he was wrong. And so there were a lot of people at that time that thought that record will never be broken. But I think Austin Matthews and Leon Draisaitl, especially in this age of hockey, the way the game has been played, unless there's like a cycle of goal suppression, which I don't think the league wants, I think those guys, if they stay healthy that long, could get in the ballpark. But that's what's amazing about longevity records is you have to be so good for so long to do it.
How many goals, and I was trying to look this up quickly, how many goals would you have to have average per year
so
throughout the career?
Because he's Ovechkin has played 20 years.
Yeah. So,
and he has averaged 49 goals a year.
So he would have to average.
Is that right? Is that right, Adam? An 82 game average. And so there have been years where there haven't been 82 games.
Exactly. His 82 game average is 49 goals per season.
49 goals
82 game average. Now, there was there's been a couple of shortened seasons, so he didn't score that many that year, but that's a pretty unique number there.
No, it is. But anytime records like this are broken, surpassed, broken, however you want to sort of classify it, the conversation will come up. Well, which record is the hardest to break? Listen, I think when you're talking about scoring records, goal records, touchdown records, goal scoring in soccer records, stuff like that. I think it holds its weight in every respective sport. And you're always going to have that sort of conversation of which one was hard or which one wasn't. I think all of them are hard in their respective sports. I can't necessarily say, well, LeBron James, his getting Kareem was harder than Alex Ovechkin getting, surpassing Wayne Gretzky. It's different because, basketball players play both ends of the ice and both ends of the court, and they play it for a longer period of time. Whereas hockey players, they are in and off, on and off the floor. And both sports are physical. One may, maybe however you want to say it, one may be a little bit physical than the other, but listen, both of them are physical. And then you look at the football, and the one record I look at that I don't think will ever be broke. We didn't think the home run record would be broke. Many people didn't think this record would be broke. But it has. But the one record or the touchdown throwing record, it got broke by Tom Brady. But this is one record, a rushing record. This is one record that I don't think will be broke because I'm starting to hear guys say, I'd rather retire early than play that long. Jerry Rice's receiving record, I feel, will never be broke, ever. Why? It's not that guys don't have the talent to do it, because I believe they do.
And they throw the ball more.
Exactly. They throw the ball more, but guys are not playing that long. The money's too great, and guys would rather get their money outside of the quarterback. Guys would rather get their money and then get out because the true physicality of the sport doesn't allow it anymore, especially at the wide. You would have to average 1,500 yards basically for 16, 17 seasons, something like that.
Do you know who the active leader in receiving yards is now? By the way, shout out Julio Jones.
Yes.
Retired this past week. Julio Jones.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Correct. DeAndre Hopkins, with Julio Jones retiring, is the active leader in receiving yards with 12,965. Jerry Rice has
He's never breaking it.
22,895.
That's amazing.
The closest after DeAndre Hopkins, right behind Hopkins, is Mike Evans.
Exactly.
12,684.
And Mike Evans has averaged over 1,000 yards in each season he's played. He's played 10, 11 seasons.
He's 31 years old.
He's not playing another 10 years at 1,000 yards.
He has a 17-game average of 1,284
Exactly.
receiving.
Jerry Rice has a Gretzky-like dominance in that
Yes.
in the receiving categories. And so if you look at the register in the NHL, Gretzky had all of the records. That's why this was so amazing, is that nobody thought Gretzky would be the margin of dominance was so amazing. That's why what Ovechkin has done is pretty remarkable in that context. And of course, Gretzky has so many assists that other one, that's another one that probably will never be broken, is the overall points that Gretzky had, goals and assists. And that's the famous stat. You could subtract all of his goals and he would still be the all-time leader in NHL points because he had so many of assists.
Despite Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's goal scoring record, Wayne Gretzky has 2,857 career points. The next closest player is Jaromir Jagr at 1,921. Ovechkin has 1,619.
Right. So Gretzky has what? Almost 1,000 more points.
More than 1,000.
Yeah, so that's a record that will never be broken. But that's not a headline record.
Right.
The
Assists
headline
aren't as
record,
sexy,
exactly.
And points, and to say like basketball points, right? It was just inevitable. Like LeBron's played this long, but the longevity is really incredible. But but these moments of a goal or a home run, that's why the Barry Bonds thing is still so bittersweet, because that should have been special. But
Exactly.
we knew all the stuff going on. That should have been an amazing charge to the top. But we know how it's viewed.
Exactly.
I will tell you my favorite part about this whole thing. And look, we're watching the celebration right now as Mark Messier is on the Pat McAfee show. My favorite thing about this record was the previous game. Washington is hosting Chicago. Ovechkin scores twice, so he ties the record at home. Chicago pulls the goalie. Ovechkin tells his coach, Spencer Carberry, that he does not want to be on the ice for the empty net because he did not want to break the record on an empty net goal.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of
And
this.
we were all wondering that when it was on. I was like, oh, man, because he has scored a number of empty net goals this year because they're ahead a lot. They're having an incredible year. You get a lot of empty net goals when your team is ahead a lot at the end of games.
But I love that he wanted to score the record
but it's
with the
like,
goalie in the goal.
In the big scheme of things, because you score so many open net goals, and I get it, you want to feel contested, but really, the argument is it counts the same. But that was probably a goal that the goaltender you think he could have got that one? You think the goaltender?
Well, it was the only goal he gave up the whole day. So he played a really good game.
I know, but I mean,
I think it was legit. I don't think it was a Michael Strahan. Or
I'm just saying,
Brett Favre, like, oh, I'll let you sack me. You see that clip of Mark Gastineau going up to Brett Favre all these years later and going nuts? You took my record. You took it from me.
And I believe he is suing ESPN now because
because they played that clip. Oh gosh.
So,
what a mess.
But I
don't think it was like that.
I'm just making fun.
Yeah.
But I just think that, listen, man, when you've accomplished something like that, we can nitpick, and I can say, Jerry Rice, which I do believe Jerry Rice's numbers at least that receiving yards number will never be broken. I do believe that, because guys are just not playing that long, and you got to average so many yards, and guys are ready they get a bag or two, they getting out because of their health, and rightfully so. But regardless of the sport, I think we minimize, and we have to do it. But I try to do it in a way where, listen, I'm not trying to minimize or sort of cast over what Ovechkin has done. It's hard in every sport when you start reaching those levels, especially the four major sports. When you start reaching those levels of being the best ever for doing something for so long, I don't care what sport you're in. It was hard. because of the longevity.
Right. You can find a lot of players who dominated for 3, even 5 years.
Exactly.
Like I think of Dwight Gooden, I think of Don Mattingly. I mean, there's a lot of people from my childhood that you can like, man, Penny Hardaway, like for 3 or 5 years, like, man, that guy might be the best in the game. But that's different than doing it for 20 years.
Exactly. In a
Or
physical
15
sport.
or more. Right. That's the cool thing about a record like that. Now, when we come back, I want to transition into Tehran, who loves to go to games, right? And I want to ask you guys what you would have done if you were an Islander season ticket holder yesterday. Before we get into the football stuff with TD, you hold a ticket, and you
Golden ticket.
You hold the golden. You're a season ticket holder. You have tickets to this game. Yesterday, 12:30 Eastern time, you have a chance to see Ovechkin set the record. Now there's no guarantee it happens on that day. It's not like like a guy's going to get a bucket in a basketball game and you're going to see it. It's going to happen. You don't know. You could get minimum $1,100, $1,500, depending on where your seat is. Huge money for those tickets. Are you selling or are you going to the game?
We will ask Tehran Davenport that and many other questions about the Tennessee Titans coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingett, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Happy Monday, everyone. This is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time now. If you have set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution or some type of goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But we got some solutions for you, okay? Because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D. Maceman, Ganadonic, 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vinkin here with you, joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, Teron Davenport. Teron, before we get to the football questions, Willie does have a sports question for you.
I have a sports question for you, TD, that I think is at the heart of a lot of sports fans, is how much is it worth having a chance to see something really special historically? So we know Alexander Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record yesterday in New York. And so my question for the panel, and I heard this, I'm stealing this from Elliot's podcast I heard this morning. He and Kyle Bukowski kicked this around. So you're an Islander fan, and you watch Ovechkin tie the record at home on Friday in Chicago, and then the game ends, and he's tied the record. So you know the next game is in your backyard. You're an Islander season ticket holder. You have the tickets, part of your package. Ovechkin's coming to town. You have a chance to see his history, but as we pointed out, there's no guarantee he scores the goal in the game. But you see on the secondary market, the value of your ticket is going up, up, up. They were saying the minimum that the tickets in the nosebleed section was going for were $1,100 a ticket. So, you know, if you have a better ticket, you're going to get that much more. And remember, you're an Islander fan. You're not necessarily a Capital fan. Do you keep the ticket with the chance you'll see history, or do you sell the ticket? So, Teron, we'll start with you.
I'm watching history on TV, and I'm selling that ticket.
It doesn't mean that much to you, the chance to see a moment like that.
No, especially if it's not for my team. No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm with TD. Even if I was even if I am, Islander fan and I'm there in the building, I'm not. It's like
if you were a Capital fan, would you feel differently?
No, I still wouldn't.
You'd still cash in.
I would cash in because I figure, and I mentioned this to you, Willie, quickly. It's not like baseball in a sense where the ball may come to you so I can get, even though you're still going to give it back, but I'm going to get something in return too. Like, I'm going to give you this ball, you're going to give me something back. Maybe that's worth close to,
Right. You don't really have that dynamic.
The puck is going in the net. It's not coming up at the top. So I'm like, I sell my ticket. How much you want to give me? Okay, here, take it. I'll watch it at home, or I'll watch it at a sports bar.
I'm conflicted, but I think I would set a threshold for how much I could get for the ticket. I think if I could get 4 figures for the ticket, I would sit that one out.
Over 1,000.
Yes.
So I think you would have easily gotten that.
Yes.
On Sunday.
Yes. What about you?
That, I mean, this is you. You grew up in D.C. So
I did.
Elliot gave a great answer. Let me get David's answer.
A band's a band, man. I'm taking the band.
He's taking the money, man. He's
taking the money.
Taking the money.
Elliot gave a great answer that gave me pause. I think if it's not my team, then I might be kind of waffling.
Even if it's my team, I'm deuces.
Especially because I don't know that he's going to score the goal. If I knew I would be there for history, that might change it. But I think I would lean towards cashing in. But Elliot said, how much is it worth to have the memory for the rest of your life? Now Elliot is maybe more of a deep, deep hockey fan than any of us, right? Yeah. Even though I've grown to appreciate the sport a lot, but the history maybe not as dear to me as it might be for Elliot. But he said, if you were there with your family member or somebody you've watched games with your whole life and you saw that moment, how much would that memory be worth to you to hold on to that ticket? And so he says he would not have cashed in. We could get him to expand on this when we talk to him. But I think I would be with you guys. I think I would cash in.
All right. We all want that paper.
If I knew he was going to do it, I think I would hold out. But I would be like, well, I'll cash in and maybe he won't do it. Because that would be bad. Sitting in the building saying he's going to do it. He's going to do it. And then he doesn't score. And you're like, I could have had $1,100 for these tickets. You stupid. You idiot. What were you thinking?
Teron, the news of the weekend about the Tennessee Titans was their decision to cancel their private workout with Shedeur Sanders, which was scheduled for, I believe, Wednesday, if I am not mistaken. Can we just put everything to rest and prepare for Cam Ward to be the number 1 pick 2.5 weeks from now?
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the case for a bit now anyway, but just continuing to work through the process. But yeah, when Brian Callahan comes out and says, they don't want to leave any stone unturned and they want to go through the due process effectively, and then they cancel the meeting, that kind of tells you, is what's going to happen. And yeah, I mean, Cam Ward is that's they stick and pick. That's going to be the guy. I think it's time to start looking at what number he's going to wear, 1 or 7.
So Tehran, middle of last week, I should say, you and others reported that that Chad Brinker was not expected to be at the Colorado Pro Day. I believe he also told Jim Wyatt the very same thing. But then Chad Brinker did end up going to the Pro Day in Boulder. Was any explanation ever given as to why Brinker made the decision to go after initially saying that he wasn't going to go?
No explanation was given. And I mean, they also sent a heavy meeting. I don't know what it is behind that, honestly. So I can't give you an answer, but yeah, it definitely changed.
So another question I have, did they ever have a workout scheduled with Travis Hunter? Because they mentioned they were canceling the workout with Shedeur Sanders. Was there ever a workout scheduled for Travis Hunter?
Yeah, Travis Hunter was going to work out at that same private workout, from what I understand. So, just neither one is going to be a visit. There was going to be a visit, so that doesn't seem to have happened. We'll see if they do the top 30 with him.
Well, that has to be, in a sense, either discouraging for those two individual players, or more down the line of what you said, TD. Listen, they know who they're going to draft, and just going to Colorado's Pro Day was, I think, more so out of respect than anything, to sort of say, okay, we went, we saw some things we liked. We just wanted to make sure we saw some things we like, but Cam's still our guy. And that goes for Travis Hunter as well. Do you see it as that?
Yeah, I mean, that's for the most part how I see it. I guess that, to them, the due process or the due diligence was, going to the Pro Day. And I think there's other guys there too. You look at like DeJounte Wester, you look at Jimmy Horn. There's a few guys there that are also prospects. So it's like, you go and you watch, obviously, Hunter and Shedeur, but you're also looking at some other guys.
Now, when you hear Titans fans or people in general, but let's just stick with Titans fans, when they're saying, well, Cam Ward's not worthy of the number 1 pick, and it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
He's not an elite quarterback. But I would tend to say, well, is he a franchise quarterback? Because typically, you want a franchise quarterback, and not all franchise quarterbacks are elite quarterbacks, but all elite quarterbacks are franchise quarterbacks. So when you look at Cam, if you believe he's a franchise quarterback, then he should be worthy of the number 1 pick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, this whole thing about not having a quarterback worthy of the number 1 pick, I think, is foolishness, and it's not something that I would buy into. You look at the tape; he has plenty of good tape on there. I'll put it up against Drake Mays for sure. I'll put it up against JJ McCarthy's tape. I put it up against Bo Nix. So I mean, I don't think that there's any doubt, or there should be any doubt, that he's a franchise guy, because he is just that and will be that in the league.
Now, do you think that, talking about Shedeur Sanders now, and Travis Hunter for that matter, do you think both of those guys, I know more so I could say yes for Travis Hunter, but do you think both of those guys are top 10 picks? Now, Travis more so in the top 3, but Shedeur in that 10 as a whole.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing what happens. I'm really curious what the Giants do. Obviously, the Browns, they hold the whole key to the rest of the draft, right? Like, do they take Carter, Hunter, or Shedeur? From what I understand, they're going to take Carter, and then evidently the Giants are going to take Hunter. You know, that's my granddaughter in the background. Evidently, the Giants are going to take Hunter, you know, and that's how it looks. So once that happens, then it's like, okay, where does Shedeur get selected? Is it the Jets? Is it the Raiders? Or could it be the right before the top 10 is done and at 9 to the Saints? So it's going to be pretty cool seeing how it falls out. Honestly, you know, for Shedeur's sake, I know he'll lose a couple of dollars, but I wouldn't mind him not getting selected until a little bit later in the first round and going to a team that's more complete and where he can hit the ground running a little bit sooner, because, you know, as soon as he has his first incompletion, everybody's going to be calling him a bust.
That's the way it goes, right? Terod Davenport is with us. So, Teron, one thing that Adam has pointed out, and we've been kicking around this morning, and I just want to get your thoughts on it, because I know you from the start have been a lot higher on both quarterbacks than a lot of people, because Adam's pointing out that a lot of if you just look at the big board and set aside the value of the quarterback position, Cam Ward is somewhere in that 12 range, maybe 10, maybe a little higher in some, maybe a little lower in others. And that has not had you flinching at all. You think it's Ward and should be Ward. So do the Titans look at, let's just say Travis Hunter, because it's fresh in their mind. They watched him on Friday. Do they think that he is the best talent in the draft, or Carter? Like, where would they think, if they did their own big board, is Ward falling in line with what a lot of the consensus is when we see mock drafts, or are they that high on Ward?
It's just you got the QB tax that you got to put on a prospect, and that's what you're seeing happening with Ward. It happened with, you know, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, all these guys, you know, and that's how it is. So I actually believe that Shedeur is the better fit for the Titans, honestly, and I've remained steady with that thought process. But I understand what they're doing as far as like with Cam Ward, because I do think Cam Ward is a guy that can elevate everybody better. Whereas Shedeur, I look at him and I think he's a guy that will perfectly execute your scheme. You see what I mean? So there's two differences. It's kind of like what D-Mace was getting at when he was talking about elite versus franchise. You know, I think Shedeur could be a franchise quarterback within the scheme, but it feels like Cam Ward has the talent and the upside to be an elite quarterback, right? You know, so that's the difference for my opinion. But yeah, I mean, look, it does look like Cam is going to be the one, and again, you got the QB tax, and that elevates him as a prospect.
So, what do the Titans think of Hunter? Do they think he is, wow, this guy is an amazing talent, but we just need a quarterback that bad? What do you think specifically their evaluation is of Hunter?
Oh, no, I know they like Hunter a lot. They're really fascinated with his ability to you know, play both receiver and corner. If they were to pick him, he would be a corner. They see him as a corner first, and the whole thought process is to have him focus on one thing and then open him up to the other. So he'll play corner, then, you know, like have a package, and then eventually work his way into the receiver side of things. So that's more or less, they like him a lot. There's been conversations with him and everything. There's interest for sure.
That's what but I still wonder if they think either Hunter or Carter is so special that would get them above, as you call it, the quarterback tax, the need for the quarterback, and you like the quarterback there, because when you have the first pick, that's the essence of the decision, I think.
Yeah, I don't wonder that at all. I know that they are not. You know what I mean? If they stick and pick, Cam is the pick. I think you could more or less just say Cam Ward is going to be the pick. So,
quickly before I pass it over to Adam, I look at this draft because, you know, people are pointing at Cam and they're saying, well, he's not worthy of the number one pick. He's not worthy of the number one pick. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, because they're comparing him to last year's draft. I think if you put any one of these top three guys, neither one of them are projected first picks overall in last year's draft or the year before that. So I don't understand why now it's, well, Cam Ward's not worthy of the number one pick. Well, Travis Hunter wouldn't have been last year, nor would Abdul Carter last year or the year before that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. context is always important. But I'll put either one of these guys right there in the mix of the quarterbacks not named C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and even, Bryce Young. I'll put any one of them in the mix with all the other ones. And as a prospect, Drake May, it's 2020 now vision with Drake May. Like, hindsight's always 2020. But coming out as a prospect, he wasn't a better prospect than Cam Ward, in my opinion. And I don't think he was a better prospect than Shedeur Sanders coming out. Now, obviously, looking back and seeing what he did with New England last year, it's a different story. But if you just talk about the prospect, I think both of these guys are right there in the cluster with all the other picks outside of those four that we named over the last 2 years.
Teron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation Titans reporter, joining us on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, as he does every Monday. Teron, great stuff as always. Get back to your grandbaby.
Oh, yeah. I got to get my time in before I go up to New York and see my Mets tomorrow.
There we go.
Go, Mets. Meet the
Yeah.
Mets.
Three games,
Mets.
3 games in 1 week.
All right. I like
Yeah.
it.
All right, Teron, be good. We'll talk to
All
you
right.
next
I'm
week.
jealous.
Take it easy. Yep.
615-737-1025. We will react to what Teron Davenport had to say. Coming up next, you can react as well at 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game.
Okay, time to talk Loan Pronto. And Loan Pronto has got some news for you. And that means the interest rates are plummeting. They're down. And so we know in this climate right now, if you're paying attention, you know that with inflation and higher costs for this reason or that reason, it can put you in kind of a stressful financial situation. But if you own a home, there is a way out, and Loan Pronto wants you to consider that. If you're looking for thousands of dollars, maybe it's $25,000, maybe it's $100,000. They can help you through your home's equity. If you're a homeowner, you have an option, and Loan Pronto is the best option. They have multiple options that can help you get the financial freedom you deserve, and you can get that cash in less than 2 weeks, and most don't even need an appraisal. So do the smart thing. Stop paying insane rates on things like credit cards or car loans that have huge interest rates. Wipe those out. You get a lower mortgage rate. Get some money for that home improvement project, and it's going to help your monthly budget as well. Just get more information by going to loanpronto.com or calling 615-499-5780. That's loanpronto.com, 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Win an exclusive Jason Aldean experience. Text in the keyword Jason, Jason, 2615-737-1025, and receive a link to sign up for a chance to win all-inclusive tickets to the Eurostone Club at Bridgestone Arena to see Jason Aldean. Also a chance to win $1,000. Hot diggity. You should do that right now by texting Jason to 615-737-1025. By the way, we will be back at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow when the Predators host the New York Islanders. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6. So Teron Davenport has been steadfast in his reporting that the Tennessee Titans will be taking Cam Ward if they stay at the number 1 overall pick. He's been saying that since he returned from the NFL Combine. I remember asking him that first show after the NFL Combine, what was your biggest takeaway? And he said, if the Titans stay at number 1, they're taking Cam Ward. So Teron Davenport certainly has been steadfast in that. One texter says, why are we trying to talk ourselves into thinking these quarterbacks are good? We still have the pick. The league market for them isn't hot. Also, wouldn't we have announced who we were taking by now if one was that good? Just feels like we're lying to ourselves about how good they are. First of all, I can't recall a time when a team weeks before the draft said, don't worry about watching the first overall pick because we're taking X player. Now, sometimes it's obvious, right?
Mhm.
We knew the Browns were, not the Browns. We knew the Bears were taking Caleb Williams. They did not have to announce anything. We knew the Bengals were taking Joe Burrow. They did not have to come out and say it. But when you put everything together, and look, what we love about Teron Davenport, he shoots it straight, man. Teron Davenport is as cut and dry as it gets. And he said that we should be prepared in 2.5 weeks for the Tennessee Titans to take Cam Ward. So that's where I am on this. And I'm sure there will be some of you who will try to talk yourselves into the idea that Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker are these mad scientists. They're playing the whole league, and they are going to extract more value for this number 1 pick than any number 1 pick has ever received in the history of time. But I don't see it.
What did you bring up earlier? The Occam's razor.
Occam's razor. Occam's razor.
Which states that the obvious answer sometimes is the answer, basically.
Correct.
Oh, so why? I mean, maybe the obvious answer is the answer. They're going to draft him. Now, listen, again, is he an elite quarterback? He's not graded as an elite quarterback, but he is graded in that franchise quarterback realm, a really good quarterback to a franchise quarterback to elite quarterback. Or you could just say franchise quarterback to elite quarterback. So I don't think, at least not the three of us, I don't think we are reaching or forcing ourselves to, believe that Cam Ward's going to be the number 1 pick. I am just sort of reading the tea leaves here. And my expectations is not an elite quarterback. That's what my expectations are. But my expectation is this need to be, if they believe he's a franchise quarterback, we'll get to elite later. But if you believe he's a franchise quarterback, then draft him. I don't think that's reaching. If you believe this guy, whoever you're drafting, number 1 overall, because I don't think any one of these guys truly, Hunter closer, but I don't think any one of these guys goes in as elite guys, like elite no-brainer guys. So if you can be a franchise guy, then any one of y'all, okay, you're in play. But it just seems like the closer and closer we get to this, Cam Ward's going to ultimately be the guy in their mind.
And I was looking at another consensus rankings, ESPN. Their 4 lead NFL draft analysts, Mel Kiper Jr., Jordan Reed, Matt Miller, and Field Yates. So what they do is ESPN takes those 4 analysts' overall rankings, average them out, and come up with a consensus top 10 ranking for the 2025 class. Cam Ward has an average ranking of 8.8. So he is the 9th rated prospect overall. Mel Kiper has him at 6. Jordan Reed has him at 9. Matt Miller has him at 14. And Field Yates has him at 6 for an average of 8.8, which makes him 9th overall on the top 10 overall rankings according to ESPN. But Willie, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is if everybody else out there puts Cam Ward at 9 or 12 or 13, what makes the Titans think that they know better than everybody else and they're going to draft this guy who everybody else thinks is, a top 10 prospect, but not a number 1 prospect?
Well, Tehran's term for that is the quarterback tax. And I think it comes down to how much do you elevate a quarterback? I don't know if they do that when they're ranking those players, right? Do the experts, the Athletic and all the ones you named, do they account for the value of a quarterback when they're putting him in the rankings, or are they putting all of the positions aside?
If I had to guess, I think they are doing it regardless of position. I think they are just looking at the prospects.
Because that's part of your answer is how much am I reaching to take this guy at 1 versus taking who you think is the most talented prospect in there? Because I think you go into it and you exhaust as much time as you can can I have my cake and eat it too? If there's a guy I got my eye on, and I can trade down and still get that guy and get more assets, that's ideal. But absent of that, which looks like that may be the case right now, is how much am I willing to reach? What is my realistic expectation? Because I do think it will be very tough if you take Cam Ward with the first pick and he is underwhelming for a while.
That's with any pick. That's what
that is with any pick, but
any
especially
number 1
at
pick,
quarterback, where I think all of this is going to be known going in, and I think you'll have this. They never should have taken him first. Why did they do that? It's the microscope you're under is a 10 out of 10, regardless of who the quarterback is. But I think there's extra on top of that, especially if you're going into a situation. If they take Cam Ward at number 1, he's going into a team that is going to struggle, especially if they don't get extra picks. They have no 3rd round pick, and he's going in with this roster. That's a tough set of circumstances and expectation level when he goes in there. That first year is going to be rough.
Okay. And it may just as well be. So, because we don't know. But this is the same. I think herein lies the problem. I don't think it's necessarily the guy. I think it's the team, the organization, the front office. Because even though all of this regime wasn't together, when they drafted Peter Skirachi, you can't draft a guard at that spot. You just can't do it. And I know he's gotten better now, but there was always you can't. Then they come back and they draft J.C. Latham. You can't draft a tackle, a right tackle that high. We need okay. No matter, even though J.C. Latham played well, you can't draft Javondre Sweat at 32. He's Javondre Sweat, which one, he played the second most snaps of any defensive player out there, because that was one of the complaints. And he is regarded as one of the best interior linemen already.
But my argument would be take all of that discussion, which was true. We definitely have hit that. But multiply it times 10.
But what I'm saying is this
particular
situation.
No,
I get that. But what I'm saying is this. If the Titans move, say if the Titans move down, because right now, what do you want for fans? Like, seriously, what do you want? Do you want a franchise quarterback or do you want an elite quarterback? There's a distinction between both of them. That should be the question.
One texter says, Mike, do you think when Nick Saban was coaching Miami, he would go back and pick Drew Brees, even though Drew Brees was not considered elite maybe at that time?
He wanted Drew Brees.
He was it was the medicals, right?
Exactly. He wanted Drew Brees. It was the guys hired him. They didn't want him. They didn't want to pay. So that may not be a good argument because he wanted Drew Brees, wanted him, but it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Again, Titan fans, and this is a serious question. And okay, if you want an elite quarterback, then don't draft him. He may not be an elite quarterback. But if you're looking for a franchise quarterback, what's wrong with drafting him number 1 if he's going to be? Now, if you don't believe he's a franchise quarterback, then okay. But if you're thinking, okay, yeah, he's a franchise quarterback, he can be a good starter in this league, he can be the Titan starter for a very long time, well, draft the number 1 if you believe that to be the case. Because I'm still getting what I want. a franchise quarterback. Again, all elite quarterbacks are franchise quarterbacks, but not all franchise quarterbacks are elite quarterbacks. And you can win with just a franchise quarterback, and you can win a Super Bowl with just a franchise quarterback.
Kevin on our text line says, if you look at other teams in the division, they seemed to have had success in drafting a quarterback because they had taken time to build a team before drafting the quarterback. Titans haven't made that investment. They'll leave Cam out to dry and set him up to fail.
In their division, Richardson is not doing well.
No.
Trevor Lawrence, he's not really doing well.
Well below expectations.
Exactly. Only person,
Stroud.
and Stroud, he took a step back this year.
Yes.
Right.
So
I think
these-
year 3 will
exactly.
be intriguing. A big one.
The
for him.
argument that the building around people.
How much money did they just
No,
spend
I'm about to
on-
I'm about to tell y'all
Remember
right
what
now.
Houston not only drafted Stroud, but they gave up assets to pick Stroud.
Exactly.
Right.
People. You're saying, well, they don't have a team around them. Last year, you're right. They didn't have a team around the quarterback. But this year, what did everybody want to address? The offensive line. Has anybody made any qualms about who they went out and got in regards to the offensive line? Nobody said anything. They've all said, like, these were good moves. Moving JC to right, putting what's his name, the tackle, Moore. Dan Moore at left, bringing in Zeitling, having Cushenberry back. Oh, we should be good. So what do you mean they're not building around them? They are getting guys around them. But it's more so veteran guys now, so they can build this roster up. So they are putting guys around whoever the potential first pick will be, who we believe will be Cam Ward. He has a nice running back in Pollard. He got Ridley. They're going to draft another receiver. They went out and got Jefferson. Well, I think Jefferson's a good, he may not be a bona fide 2, but he's a good receiver in this league. They are addressing those holes. They are making this team better. So I would draft Cam Ward into this organization right now because of now it may not work out. Moore, Zeitling, it may not work out. But I do see them going out and getting players that we want, in a sense, guys that are not injured, guys that have shown they can play multiple games or not missing games prior to coming here to Nashville. So they're doing all these things that the fan base wanted them to do. So what do you mean they're not building a team around a potential Cam Ward? I think they are, but it's going to take more.
615-737-1025. We will take your reaction. 615-737-1025 as we wrap up the show. Next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Stoneman and Company coming up next. This just crossed my screen, although it was tweeted 44 minutes ago by Jim Wyatt. Taylor Zarzour is the new lead broadcaster for the Tennessee Titans, replacing the legendary Mike Keith. By the way, Jared Stillman was the first to mention Taylor Zarzour's name. It was during the show we did at Assembly Food Hall, and I know Jared wants his credit, so I am giving Jared his credit, but it is official. The Tennessee Titans have announced that Taylor Zarzour, Zarzour, will be their lead broadcaster starting next season, replacing Mike Keith, who, of course, has headed to Knoxville.
That is going to be weird. I mean, congratulations to him. But man, God, Willie, that's going to be.
It's always a challenge when you switch from a guy that you've been used to hearing for a long, long time. I went through it, quite honestly, when I made my transition.
About 3 generations.
Bob Kessling for John Ward. Now Bob Kessling steps aside and Mike Keith goes in there. The transition is always significant. Some can make it smoother than others. I think it's a good choice by the Titans. Taylor is a pretty respected guy. Done a lot of SEC games over the years, so I think there's some familiarity going in, which I think will help him.
Familiarity with SEC, because
yes,
and according to Jim
it
Wyatt,
means nothing on the Titans. Really, it's not like they're little with
I
SEC.
think there's a lot of crossover Titans fans with SEC football fans
in that regard.
So I think they've heard of him, right? They probably have heard him do some games. I don't know if they can distinguish his voice out of the crowd, but I think he's a pro. He spent some time in Nashville. He was co-host. He was co-host for the morning sports page on Sports Radio 560. Right. I remember that. That was quite a while ago.
With Bob McClellan.
Oh, good call. I would not have recalled who he was with at the time. But so he does have some ties to Nashville. He knows the market pretty well. What I don't know is how much radio play-by-play he's done, because to me that is an important distinction, an adjustment you have to make when you go from television play-by-play to radio play-by-play. I think in a football game, and I think Kevin Harlan is one of the best that I know that makes that transition. If you watch Kevin Harlan do a game on TV, it's a different call than when you hear him do the Monday Night Football or the Thursday Night Football. More description, location, painting the picture. That, I think, will be what Taylor's got to do, and I'm sure he's thinking about it right now. I'm sure he's been working at it since he's known he's getting this job.
So congratulations to Taylor Zarzour, the new voice of the Tennessee Titans. Trey is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Doing good.
Hey, I want to ask y'all one question before y'all hop off. This is to each one of y'all. Okay, say, for instance, the Titans draft Cam Ward, and Coach Callahan is on the hot seat. Would you sacrifice your career on Cam Ward? Yes or no? That's all I want to know. And y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Trey.
Appreciate it.
Would you sacrifice your career for Cam Ward?
I think that's every head coach when they draft a quarterback overall. If you feel he's that guy, that's your job. Your job's on the line. Even though there may be a consensus across the board. Everybody may be in agreement. But if that quarterback don't work, who's getting fired first? You, the head coach.
I do want to,
but he's not making the pick, is
it? Yeah, he's not making.
When you say he's sacrificing his career, it's not really up to him, is it?
If you listen to Jared, which I know many of you do, not like you listen to a show, but sometimes he can brainwash you a little bit, right? That's not what I meant, though. If you listen to Jared, he says that Brian Callahan is so far away from the decision-making process. He has no juice. He has no real sway in the organization, right? But I want to see Brian Callahan have the opportunity to work with another young quarterback to see if what we saw last season was more of a product of Will Levis being unable to be taught versus a reflection of Brian Callahan's ability to develop a quarterback.
Also, let's hope that, as Derek pointed out earlier this hour, let's hope that they have fixed one huge thing that could help a quarterback succeed, and that is the offensive line. If they have an improved offensive line, which I think is you can never say it's a certainty, but I do think from the last 2 years they have made some progress, and I think they could make some more progress that could help Brian Callahan be able to call the plays that you want to call. When I think he was hamstrung in that area last year.
I think if you're going to sit here and believe that Brian Callahan is just so y'all in the house and he hadn't even showed up at the house yet when he's talking about making these decisions about the quarterback. If you believe that that is indeed the truth, I don't know what to tell you. Listen, Brian Callahan has a hand in this. He has to coach the guy. Okay. And regardless of what you think about him, whether, the front office, he may not be Brinker's guy or Borgonzi's guy, more so Brinker than anything. He may not be Brinker's guy, okay? But yet and still, you're going to draft someone that you believe that can elevate this franchise. You're not going to draft somebody bad just to get the head coach out of here, or the head coach. He has to have some say in how can you coach this guy? What do you see from him? Because you're our coach. I can see if you're on a hot seat right now and we're thinking about firing you within the next couple of days, then yes, it don't matter to you. What we're doing doesn't matter to you. But if you got another year and we're drafting this quarterback, yeah, you do need to be a part of the process. Now, I'm not going to say that your decision is going to be the final decision. No. But all of us is going to sit in this room and we're going to sit down and we're going to turn on the tape and we're all going to have something to say about, isn't that what they said? We're all going to have something to say about a particular player. What do you think about it? What do you think about him? It's not like Brian Callahan is in the room and nobody's asking Brian any questions. That's a bad franchise right there. Now, if you're saying that, they may be saying the Titans are a bad franchise. I don't know. But I do believe Brian Callahan, he's in the room and his voice is being heard. Okay. And when it comes to whether they're going to draft Cam Ward or not, because if they draft Cam Ward, if I don't think you the guy that can coach him, I don't care. I'm not having you as my coach. If you're not sitting in these rooms, I don't want you as my coach. Damn what anybody else say, you're not in this room. But obviously, he's going to be in the room. He's our coach. So I need to know what you think about this guy. Because ultimately, you got to coach him.
I definitely would hope he has input.
Exactly. To say you have no input. And I'm like, no.
They pick a quarterback.
Yeah, he's not going to say if, Brinker and Borgonzi says, yes, it's not like Callahan sitting there and said, nope, we're not drafting. No. It's like, okay, I got to draft him.
The tough part would be if you get a sense in that room that everybody is like, we're going to draft Ward, right? We're going to draft. And you and your heart are going, I don't know. Would you say that? Like, what if everybody in the room is saying, we got to take Ward? We all agree it's Ward, right? And they're looking at Brian Callahan, and he's like, and deep down in your heart, you're saying, I don't know. I don't know if he's the right guy. Could you say that?
I'm sure
could you openly say that? I mean, privately, you have to trust everybody in that room that you could be completely honest. Because I go back to, I do think he was hired with the idea that you're our guy. We've got Will Levis. You're going to make a quarterback out of Will Levis. And we know it didn't happen. But that was Amy Adams in the press release. We have a up-and-coming young quarterback. We just need the right coach, because that's why that was part of the storyline why they moved on from Mike Vrabel. But we know it didn't happen.
But I
think it's always right to be honest in the room. But that's what I wonder is his honest assessment of Cam Ward, whether they draft him or not. What is his honest assessment of him?
But again, it comes down to this. They drafted you. Why? Because you could develop. You were a part of this quarterback group that you helped and you saw them work. Okay. if I'm that guy and they hire me for that, I'm gonna believe that I can get this guy right. I am, because I saw some glimpses in our offense last year when the other quarterback was in. That quarterback just didn't. Y'all all know he didn't have it. I didn't draft the guy, but I'm gonna show you that. Yeah, go ahead and draft him. I got it. Don't worry about it.
We're out of here. We'll be at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow. Predators versus Islanders. Stillman and Company coming up next.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday. Peace.